Hi, this is Doug and Brad with the Darksliders podcast.
Hello.
So this is episode 11. Kind of cool. A lot of news this week. And we played a lot of games, a lot of news, so I'm actually kind of excited to get in this episode. So, oh yeah, I just want to make a quick correction last week. We both agreed that an awesome Marvel game by Telltale would be Hellraiser, and we
I think we did.
referred
We said DC, didn't we?
DC. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Don't make a mistake in the correction.
yeah,
That's a
that's
problem.
true. So we had referenced the DC comic Hellraiser when we actually should have been saying Hellblazer, the John Constantine story, which still would have been a great Telltale game. So not
So for all of you that were offended by that,
yeah,
which I'm sure is a lot of you,
yeah. So not Pinhead, John Constantine. Glad we got that away. I'm sure that there's actually a few other mistakes, but whatever. You guys know what's wrong. So getting right into games we played. So this week I was kind of late on this one. There was a Golden Week sale, which is basically to celebrate. It's Golden Week is actually a sort of like the after Thanksgiving sale we have in America for Japan, and it's sort of a Japanese holiday. So on PSN they had the Golden Week sale, which they had a bunch of Japanese games on sale. So I picked up Demon Souls, which I haven't been able to touch yet. But I also got to pick up Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes because it was only $8, and so I got to play it. My first impression is that I am not excited for Metal Gear Solid 5 because of this.
why?
Yeah,
I had the exact opposite reaction when I played that.
because it's way, way too fin dark. It's so dark. It's
And
well, okay. When Kojima's like been talking about Metal Gear Solid 5, he talks about how dark the story is and things like that. But they keep releasing stupid trailers that have like that Metal Gear Solid goofiness, like here's Snake in a chicken hat, or here's Snake in a sexy lady box, or here's Snake with a PS4 box on his head. And all I can think about is like, oh my god, this story is about have like rape and murder, and child soldiers during
and
wartime,
chicken hats.
and and then with chicken hats. I'm like,
What's wrong with that?
that is.
You gotta lighten the mood at some point. I'm sure it's not gonna be like child soldiers fighting in chicken hats. I'm assuming it's gonna be like, here's this really, really dramatic scene. Okay, now a chicken hat.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you cannot. There's like a certain. I feel like there's like a certain amount of tact you should have with like child soldier stories or just general wartime stories. And we've always been like, well, Metal Gear Solid's kind of goofy, but now they're like trying not to be goofy, but still having that level of goofiness in it just makes it way weirder than I think it's been before.
But you don't know what it's gonna actually look like in final product because it's supposed to be such an open world game that, okay, yeah, the actual narrative maybe is the serious stuff, but then when you're just riding around on your horse or whatever the heck you're doing in that game, then you get like okay, now I can ride around on my horse and put a chicken hat on my horse or something. Like, you can separate those two things out and have the same ideas in the same universe.
I guess, but I'm just really hoping like that they don't do like I hope for at least the first playthrough they don't do the silly stuff, and then after you can unlock all the silly stuff and do all whatever weird stuff. But I just feel like honestly they're gonna show a child soldier like wearing a Kojima shirt, like a Kojima production shirt or something like that. I was like,
Well, Konami is pretty pissed right now, so they might have to put that in.
I just feel like Kojima's gonna be too silly. He's made this story too serious to be as silly as he usually is. And from all the media I've seen in Metal Gear Solid 5, it seems like they're just upping their silliness game by quite a bit. So I don't know. I mean, the gameplay's great. That's fine. But I just like when I was like playing this game, I was just like, okay, what horrible thing are they gonna show me? It was only 2 hours long. Like,
Yeah. It's a demo. You paid $8 for a demo.
yeah, but I'm saying it's like it's 2 hours of a story exclusively about child torture.
Uh-huh.
That's not why would I want to. Why I was like, see what happens next. I was like, how could it get worse from here?
Well, maybe it gets better.
Maybe, but I don't know.
This is one of those things that I don't think you can judge at this point. I think that's why I had a different reaction, because I was just like, okay, wow, this is really dark. These are some crazy things that they're doing. This does not seem like this random group of guys who are orchestrating the whole world or private military corporations or whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, this story happened. I'm not going to sit here and make crazy guesses at the story of Metal Gear Solid 5 when I have no information on it other than this. Yeah. So it's like, it can be dark, and yeah, they've said it's going to be dark, but you don't know to what level, you don't know, like, until I see the story, I can't sit here and go, oh, this is a story that can't have chicken hats.
That's true, but I'm saying, like, we have 2 hours of the story thus far.
True.
And that's
we also have 2 hours of really good gameplay.
That's true. Okay, I guess we should talk. I didn't want to talk too much about the gameplay because I feel like a lot of people have already played this and it's kind of old news. Yeah, the gameplay's great. Like the open world thing absolutely fits Metal Gear. Oh, I was surprised how hard it was because a lot of people were kind of complaining that because there's like you can sort of like tag enemies and things like that. It's like, oh, it's gonna be so much easier. But because you can't see their cone of vision and like you don't have them just like immediately on your radar, like you really are like constantly looking around, and you kind of need that tag. So I felt it was kind of like a lateral step in difficulty. Like it's just different, but it's not necessarily easier. Like I played like Metal Gear Solid 3 and 2. I beat those on like whatever European extreme difficulties or whatever. Because I really actually do like when they go hard. I play the game like first on normal and then the second time on like super hard or whatever. But I did like that this game was like definitely mixing up it felt like a Metal Gear game, but it definitely felt like they were changing a lot of things for the better. And it felt like it felt like they were kind of this was like the next step, but it didn't feel too different that it wasn't a Metal Gear game.
Yeah, so the same feeling, but definitely changed the way you thought about what you were doing.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it definitely made me think. It was I'm starting to like this.
Yeah.
I'm starting to like this trend with games that are making me think, like Bloodborne and such.
You had to throw that in here at least once.
I'm going to talk about Bloodborne until I'm dead. Trust me, the DLC will be a super double episode.
Oh, God.
But yeah, no, I'm starting to like this trend where I feel like AAA games are starting to make me think, which is not something I would normally expect from the AAA games. I think they're starting to listen to the public, because the public is starting not to like games that are pretty straightforward, which would segue perfectly into the next game we're going to talk about. This week, me and Brad both rented The Order.
Yes.
And I rented this weekend. I actually didn't rent it. I actually got it from my local library. Oh, yeah. Real quick. If you have a library in any vicinity of you, which you probably do, they probably actually have PS4 games you can take out. Or PS3 games.
Only if you live in cool places. If you live in little tiny small towns that nobody gives a crap about, they definitely don't have PS4 games at your library.
Okay, well, if you live in super cool places, sometimes, like, I mean, the place, I don't know, like, there's, like, my local library has, like, literally hundreds of games. So check out your local library and go pick up a book. I feel like maybe libraries will get something on this podcast. I feel like I'm helping the world just a little bit. Anyway, so I got The Order there. I got to chapter 10, I'm going to say. And Brad, you had the game for 2 days, right?
About 16 hours.
And how far did you get?
I finished it. No, not 16. When did I... Yeah, about 16 hours. No, maybe 20. Somewhere around there. Okay. Not a full day.
All right, so... Okay, so Brad, I'm going to kind of let you lead this because I got to chapter 10, and then you said there's only 2 hours left, but there's like 25 chapters.
There's 16 chapters.
Okay, oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Dang.
Yeah, you were literally like 2 hours away from the end of that game.
Crap, I gotta go re-rent that. Yeah, so why don't you start? So you finished The Order, and I don't want to be spoiler because this is actually a story. The story, first of all, I want to, like, because of the 10 hours I played, the story was super intriguing, and I don't want to get spoiled. So we're gonna try to avoid spoilers as much as possible, hopefully. Yeah. So Brad, after you finish the game, what are your impressions of the game? Are you glad you just rented this, didn't buy it? If you had bought it for like $20, would you have regretted it? You know,
if I bought it for $20, I would have been fine. I think, and this was the big debate when this game came out: is it good? Is it okay that it's? I mean, I think total playtime I was maybe at 6 hours, maybe give or take.
Whoa, I didn't realize it was that short.
Yeah, and that's a complete estimate on my part, but I'm pretty sure it was around 6, maybe 7, somewhere around there, but. It's short. It's real short. Like, even by short game standards, it's short. Like, I would have been fine with it because I don't necessarily put a whole lot into, this game was 20 hours worth of stuff. And I know I've complained about, like, JRPGs being 50 hours long and stuff like that and just not having the time for it.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have, and maybe this is just, like, I don't necessarily think this is necessarily the popular opinion, but I would rather have a good, short story than a really bad epic thing.
So
you know what I mean?
is this a good short story then?
I would say, okay, story-wise, yes. Gameplay-wise, actual game, I don't know. My thing with this is that it has some amazing elements. I mean, this is probably the prettiest game I've ever played.
I couldn't think. I was trying to when I was playing, I was trying to think of like in my gaming history, what's a better and I honestly could not think of a better looking game than this. This is like bar none. Like it looks CG. Like it looks
yeah. And just the way that it transitions from like the CG cutscenes, which there are tons of.
Yeah, they're not actually CG. Actually, real quick, they're not CG. They're all in engine. That's kind of important. Yeah.
But like, I mean, it transitions seamlessly to the point where like when the game started, like the first couple levels, there are a few parts where I was just standing still trying to figure out, and I went, "Oh, crap! This is the actual game now. I have to move this," because like you can't tell the difference really for a lot of it. But there's some really good parts to it. There's the gameplay in it. I'm a huge Gears of War fan. I love Gears of War. And this game plays a lot like Gears of War when you actually get to like the actual combat and stuff. It's a little bit slower, and a little bit more kind of eased up from the craziness that Gears of War can be. But overall, it's pretty similar, and I really like that. And the gameplay itself really worked well.
Yeah, from what I played, I felt like there wasn't enough of it. Like I felt like I felt like their cutscenes were like, this is my problem with actually Metal Gear Solid 4. I felt Metal Gear Solid 4 was kind of overbearing with I think the cutscenes in the Order are amazing, and I think the gameplay is pretty good. It's just the ratio of the two is like way skewed.
Oh, it's so far off. I mean, we were having a conversation while I was playing this game through like a chat thing, and I mean, we were like typing back and forth, and I was playing this game, and I was like, I read 2 or 3 articles, I was talking with you and a couple other people, and it's like, this is all while playing the game, because you honestly, for a lot of the game, you play for 10 minutes, sit for 10 minutes, play for 5 minutes. There is one part where there was probably a solid 15 minutes where I didn't touch the controller at all.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I mean, we complain about this, but the scenes are so well done that it's like, it's kind of like, it's hard to complain about. Like, as a game, it's okay, but as an experience, I kind of enjoyed myself for as far as I got. What happened was I was playing it kind of in the middle of the day when I first started playing it, and I got like 2 or 3 chapters in, and my family was around. It was kind of distracting and things like that. I was in town for a little bit. But then I started playing it at night with all the lights off. I was just by myself, and then I realized, like, oh my god, this game is amazing at night. It's like, if you get really absorbed into it, then it is like a really entrancing kind of experience thing. But I felt like I was watching a really good movie. I felt like I was watching an R-rated CG film, which was kind of cool. Like, cause that was just like, it was like a whole unique thing that was like, oh wow, this is like something I've never seen before. Like like everybody's talking about, it's like, oh well, we're just gonna get kids movies forever. But this is like really like, this is like an R-rated CG film.
Yeah,
that's really well done, and like sometimes you get to interact with it. I felt it was more like an interact with the audience movie.
Yeah, and with that, the biggest comparison that I can make, and it has no connection in story, tone, gameplay, anything, is Asura's Wrath.
Oh, yeah.
Just the way that I felt playing both of those games. Asura's Wrath, I love that game.
Yeah.
Love that game. Great game. If you haven't played it, go pick it up. It's probably like $5 somewhere.
Yeah.
But that game, you basically watch the game, and occasionally there's some quick time events. Occasionally there's some gameplay. But a lot of it is kind of like you said, where it's like you're basically watching a movie that every now and then is like, okay, now you try.
Yeah. It's like they point to the audience. It's like, yeah, it was like a play, okay, or like a play that like then like the cast turns to the audience like, okay, guys, where's the bad guy? And you have to go walk down the hallway to go find the bad guy. I felt like this game would have just been really good if it just had. I don't think the actual cutscenes where people were talking were intrusive, but I felt there's just like cutscenes for like everything. Like if you crawl through a tunnel, like which would just be a normal animation in a game, it's a cutscene. Or like I was blown away the first time I climbed down a ladder, turned into a cutscene, and like the cutscene ends when he jumps off the ladder.
Yeah.
But then I was also thinking, it's like, well, if you're playing a game, are those parts even interactive anyway?
Yeah, you're just holding it down.
Yeah.
You're just holding down on the stick or up on the stick anyway.
Yeah. Because like because the cutscene starts once he jumps off the ladder. Like you press down and X, And I was thinking of like, oh well, there's other games like you'd see the animation, like their version of an unplayable animation is now a cutscene.
Yeah, which makes sense because, like you said earlier, it's all in engine anyway, so you might as well.
Yeah, like kind of spruced it up kind of thing. But
Yeah,
it felt like I kept like going in and out of cutscenes constantly instead of like not like losing temporary control. I felt like I was just kind of like switching back and forth between two things like really quickly. I didn't like
yeah.
that. One of the comments I kept hearing about this game was, it's a unique experience and you should try it, but it's a series that has a ton of potential.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what? If they took a lot of the criticism, like I honestly, like I don't even want to talk too much about the criticism stuff because pretty much when I was playing the game, any criticism I heard of this game is absolutely true.
Oh, 100%.
It's 100% true, but it's still a unique enough experience that you should seek it out and try it. Honestly, it's Journey. It's like playing Journey in a different setting, and you don't play as much. I don't know. Like I had to think of it in different terms. Like this is a big budget Journey or Unfinished Swan or Flower or something like that.
Yeah.
It's more of like a walk. It's an experience more than it is a game. But anyway, talking about the potential, like if they fix those issues and like cut down on the cutscenes and make it longer. Order 1887. I don't know how the ending goes, but just because of the date, I feel like they could throw that date into anything. And don't say
Yeah.
anything, Brad.
Let, all I'm going to say is there is definitely a way to get a sequel out of this game
Yeah. Okay. That's
from the ending.
that's okay. That's kind of what I thought. And it was like obviously just because of the number system, like you just knew that they could turn that date to anything and everybody totally on board.
The Order 1931.
Yeah, or like a World War One game would be great, or I don't know, just anything. And the universe is really cool. I just thought all the world building
Well,
stuff was awesome.
again, 1887 based on the ending, definite possibility. We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah, the only other thing, and this really bothered me to the point where like there were a couple times where I turned the game off because I need this to stop. You walk so much in this game.
What do you mean? Just
You
like
just like it disables your ability to sprint, and you're not doing anything but getting from point A to point B.
yeah, I noticed that a little bit. So I didn't finish it, but yeah.
And again, it's not. It happens throughout the game, but I don't like that. Either make it a cutscene, make it so that I can run through, or
Yeah.
do something. But it's like it's almost the game understands that it's really pretty, and it's like, okay, we're just gonna slow you down for a second. Can you look at the game we made? Look at how pretty this is. Don't run through this. You need to walk and just look around. And
Yeah.
I just felt like the game was forcing me to do that. And it wasn't even like these parts necessarily were huge plot points or anything crazy was going on. A lot of it was just like, okay, we need to get to the house across the street, so we're gonna walk slowly through this back alley.
Yeah, I like that stuff in game. I think BioShock Infinite actually did it pretty well, where they have like these like long stretches of like just shooting up and stuff like that. But then it gave you like a huge area to explore. And
Yeah.
I feel like this game, they slow it down, but they slow you down a very obvious path. If they had
Yep.
slowed you down like more like an opening area, like if it was like, because I was thinking of like kind of like a JRPG town where you can like walk around, like explore and things like that would make sense for slowing down. It also makes sense to do those sort of scenes like after there's been a huge action scene. But this game doesn't have
Yeah.
really long, big action scenes,
No, not at
so
all.
they feel like doubly excessive because you don't feel like you need a cooldown yet. Like you feel like, oh, I need to shoot more, but you don't. Now you have to walk around, kind of thing.
Yeah, because Gears of War has the same thing. But I really like it in Gears of War, because Gears of War, it's normally, okay, and again, I use that analogy, and I really like Gears of War. But anyway, you have the big shooting scene, and you blow up the gigantic, huge monster, and then you go into this building, and the first second in the building, it's only 20, 30 seconds long. And it's you walk for 20, 30 seconds, and while that's happening, the characters are having a conversation, or you're getting something pointed out to you.
Yeah.
Whereas, like you said, this is just, okay, we're just walking to walk at this point.
The thing too is like they make it really clear that there's no danger because you can't pull out your gun.
Yeah, you can't pull out your gun, you can't sprint. It's just walk across the street, and instead of just like where a normal game would be like, okay, you're in this house, we need to get to the house across the street. 10-second cutscene, you see the guy run across the street, he's in the house, and you're done moving on. This game's like, okay, we're going to take 3 minutes to let you walk across. Did you see the house 2 doors down?
Yeah.
Because we did that whole thing too, and it looks really pretty just like the rest of this.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something super wacky about the pacing. The worst part is like literally everything else about this game is amazing. Like the best
Oh, yeah.
ever. Like story's really good, characters are really interesting, graphics are amazing, world is crazy. it's the gameplay kind of suffers, but I think my final thoughts on it is like you would really enjoy this if you don't think of it, if you think of it more as like an experience sort of game like Journey or Flower or Unfinished Swan, and not like a third person shooter game that you would be expecting.
Yeah, don't expect a huge action game out of this.
Yeah. So the next game I actually kind of want to talk about. Brad didn't get to play this one sadly. But there's a game coming out to PS4, and they had the beta for the past 2 weeks called Rocket League, which is actually a sequel to a PS3 game, and I'm gonna screw this up, but it's called like Supersonic Jetpack Car League or something. And they shortened it a
I
lot.
wonder what that game's about.
Yeah, yeah. They had this like really, they were trying to be like cheeky and make a super long title, and then they realized like, oh wait, not a lot of people bought our game because it's a really long, stupid title. So now it's just called Rocket League, and Rocket League is actually one of the dumbest, simplest concepts for a game ever. And honestly, it's like I can explain in one sentence. It is soccer or football, depending on where you are, but you play as RC cars, and that can jump. And that's it. And it's super simple. And the gameplay mechanics, like, you have a forward or reverse, a double jump, and a turbo. And that's it. And it's just basically pure gameplay. But my god, this game is so much fun. I was kind of down after playing Bloodborne. Not down, but I was just like, I need a less serious game after playing Metal Gear Solid, The Order, and Bloodborne, like all in the same week. I was like, I need something that kind of like that's kind of happy and cheery. I played Shovel Knight and that was kind of good, so I was kind of looking for another just kind of like laid back game. This game is just so I don't know, it's just really fun. It's way more fun than just a simple soccer game should be, and there's a lot of it's a game that's one of those like simple to start, hard to master kind of thing, because a lot of it has to do with angles. So okay, if I'm like taking the ball to the other person's net, you actually have to jump and then do like a flip in order to kick it forward. So, like if the ball is coming towards me, I have to jump in the air, and then when I jump again, I can spin really fast. But you can turn like what angle your spin is. So you could do like a headbutt into the goal, or do a backflip, like a bicycle kick, or you can like spin laterally and then like kick it off to the left or right. I don't know. It seems like it's a seemingly simple game. It's just really dumb fun. I think you can actually sign up for the beta still. But honestly...
I tried.
Huh?
I tried again. Yeah. It didn't work.
Okay, well, Brad screwed up. Okay. Brad was going to play this game. I sent him the...
I tried.
The
it didn't work.
The link. So, okay, this is a warning that you only have 2 days to actually activate your beta key when they send it to you. So please do it.
Otherwise, your PlayStation 4 just says invalid code. Please enter a new code, and then you get really angry because you realize that there's a little fine print on there. So, and then you can't play this game.
Yeah, honestly, like so the beta has like you have one type of car and one type of arena and one type of gameplay. And honestly, if they just sold that for $15, I'd buy it immediately. But I guess the full version is gonna have like 6 courts. Like a bunch of, I don't know how many courts, a bunch of cars. If you like just simple mechanic games that are just kind of silly and fun, this should be an instant buy whenever it comes out. If it's $20, yeah, the netcode's also for a beta. I was surprised how good the netcode was. I was playing on some like pretty crappy internet and never really had any dropouts or something like that. And if you have like issues with your connection, it kind of flinches for like maybe a second or two, but then you're right back into it, which is kind of surprising for how physics based everything is. Because like there's all these cars flying around, the balls jumping around and things like that. This game's awesome, and I wish Brad had played it so we could have actually talked about it more.
Well, maybe you should call whoever made this game and tell them to make the 2 days only a little bit bigger on their email, so some of us who are busy
I'll tweet
can
them
play their game.
I'll tweet them this part of the episode and say fix it.
Or just ask them for another beta code for me. That works too. Hey guys,
by the time we actually get another
podcast.
beta code, the game's gonna be out. It's actually coming out really soon. This was just basically like we're done with the game. We just need to make sure the netcode's okay, and it is, and it's fun. So moving on to news and games we want to play and talk about and stuff like that. We've kind of combined that all together. Just everything after games we've played. So I'm not going to talk about this for too much. So our episode actually got outdated, like literally the day it came out. We recorded, I guess on Sunday, then released Monday night. And in that time period, Valve took off all the paid mods from Skyrim. Like we spent a large portion of our last podcast complaining about these paid, or I did.
Yeah, you got angry.
I was really mad about this. And apparently the internet was enough that they just took it down. So
I think it was us. I think our podcast pushed them over the edge.
oh yeah. Gabe, did you see this podcast by Doug and Brad? They made some pretty good points compared to those guys who've been modding Skyrim for the past 5 years. These guys really know their stuff.
Influence.
So they're doing no more paid mods, and I think they're gonna do this eventually. I can't see it. This was like just a test bed. I think people like they're with any big thing Valve does. There's always immediately poor reaction to it, like the hats thing. But now everybody loves hats. I feel like they're gonna figure out a way to just repackage this into a much nicer way, especially
or make it even. Mm-hmm. I could see easily going to like a pay what you want type model or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, where there's some option for it, but it's more of like a your choice type thing, at least initially before moving to like full on paid thing.
Yeah.
I just feel like that would make the transition so much smoother as opposed to just going, okay, now this costs $20.
Yeah, that was so dumb and out of nowhere. But yeah, especially with like Source 2 coming out, or yeah, Source 2, which is the new engine they've been showing off quite a bit. But Left 4 Dead 3 is probably going to be on, and Half-Life 3.
That's not a thing.
But I feel like Source 2 is going to release with a bunch of mod stuff and the ability, if you so choose, to charge for your mod, and basically put any sort of like. Basically, I think they're going to let the modders like completely choose they want people to pay for their mod or not, so that any of the hate can get redirected at the modders themselves instead of Valve.
Yep, and they can just go, oh, we just gave them the option, and you gotta go get pissed at them.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's good they took it down. I think we're just gonna see it more in the future.
Yep.
Next bit of news. I actually thought this was crazy interesting, and really really strange because I don't think I've ever seen a developer do this. I guess a little bit of background in case you aren't like totally up on gaming news stuff. So Final Fantasy 15, they released episode Dusky, which was basically a long form demo with Final Fantasy Type 0. Which is kind of cool, and we talked about it in the past. But this is kind of the cool news that came out. So they released a survey in which you actually had to put in your demo code in order to even take the survey. So they knew the only people who were taking the survey were people who played the demo. So you took this survey, I don't know how many questions long it was, but you could put comments and things like that. And they did a survey for North America, Japan, and Europe. And then they spent an hour and a half. I'm going to put live in quotation marks because they didn't actually do it live. But they all did it in like one cut, where they actually talked about the information they got from those stats. And it was actually really, really kind of eye-opening and really interesting. I was surprised how blatant, not blatant, but how honest they seemed, at least, with the information. Brad, so like, what are your thoughts about this? Like, where developers, like, they're obviously not done with the game, and they basically just did an open beta and talked about this. You played like Halo betas and stuff. Is this normal for games?
I don't think so. I know like if you do betas, they normally send you out a survey or something after you've done it. Like I've had that before, but I don't think I've ever actually seen developers go back and comment on what people thought. I think it's always just been more of a, okay, we'll take that and we will use your information to check the game type thing. I don't know if I've ever actually seen anybody come out and go, okay, well, you had this concern. Well, let's address that. Here's why. Or, oh, you had this thought. Well, maybe, and then, you know what I mean, and kind of actually address it. So, okay, your thoughts are actually, like, important to us. Let's address them. Let's take some time out to do this. We'll talk about it. So, I don't know. I like that idea. I think it's something that you have to be very careful with. Like you said, they had to put in their demo code for it.
Yeah.
Because I think if you just open this up, then that's never going to work. And
yeah.
The internet's the internet. So
it was actually really funny. They had like pointed that out too. They're like, we want to make sure they said this. They've mentioned YouTube specifically. It's like we didn't want people who just saw it on YouTube to comment because we really can't. No. Yeah, and that's just us. We're just the jackasses who just kind of watched on YouTube and saw clips and things like that, and didn't spend $60 on a demo. Not a demo. That's mean. Type O was the new game, kind of.
Yeah.
Wasn't even that. It was an HD remake. Anyway. So one of the more interesting things I thought was like the major concerns of each area, and So like a lot of America thought the game was too easy, because we're used to playing action adventure games a lot, and then Japan they thought the game was too hard. Um, as a major complaint, which I thought was kind of interesting. And they said like they're like, which is really weird to me because when I think of like okay, when PS2 era Japanese games were hard.
Oh, yeah. There were very few Japanese games I finished PS2 era.
Yeah, like I think they're like notoriously difficult, especially action games.
Yeah.
Like that's with like Devil May Cry 3 and all those games. So I was kind of shocked that like Japanese people were complaining that this was too hard. But I do think that because like American audiences are just so used to playing action adventure games that would make more sense. There's a lot of other stats too that were like really really I there's too many of the stats to talk about specifically on this podcast, but I would just go through and actually watch that video. It's called if the thing itself is called like active ATB Final Fantasy 15. ATB is sort of the series where they talk about the game, and they've been doing that for a while, and they've been showing like short clips and stuff like that. They had a lot leading up to episode Duske. Um, Actually, one thing I do want to talk about is the major complaint from Europe. Like the number one complaint they got was Cindy's design,
Yeah, I remember reading that.
and their comment. Oh my god, they made
It
the
was
most.
it was bad.
Oh my god, they made the most asinine comments about it. They were like they just like were like we're not gonna change it, and they were really shocked that people wanted a female addition to the group. And I can kind of see they're like, okay, no, this is just like a guy's going on a trip, so we're not gonna have a female. We're not gonna have like a female group the whole time. It's like, okay, if that's the story you want to tell, that's the story you want to tell. But their comments in regard to Cindy design was like, you guys don't want a female. You guys want a female character, but you also want us to change the Cindy design. Isn't there something wrong with that? I was like, wait, are you saying that we only want a female character to like ogle at? Like, is that why you think people want a
That was
female?
kind of what was implied by what they said, definitely, which is a little creepy, but
Yeah, yeah. It's just like, oh man, you guys. I don't know where Japan is right now with like. I don't know. I feel like there's been like a lot of just social movements currently going on in the U.S. and things like that. But that was like straight out of the 1950s, and I was like, you guys. I mean, if I'm even thinking like past Final Fantasy character designs, like they're usually pretty reserved for the female characters. Like Cindy is like kind of a weird, crazy sexual. I mean, they always have like side character. I guess they sometimes do have side characters that are kind of
there's a
goofy.
few that are kind of, yeah.
But when I think of like Final Fantasy female characters, there's like Yuna and Lulu and I don't know,
Lightning.
Rinoa.
Yeah.
Tifa's probably the closest one to being whatever modern day, whatever Cindy design they were going for. I don't know. That kind of made me mad. It kind of made me like realize that there's sort of I don't know. I feel like they're not going to address. I feel like they don't totally understand the complaints that were about that design, and that it was super over sexualized, and it didn't make sense for the universe, and it just felt like that weird part of Japanese games that doesn't resonate with American or
Yeah, that
Western
doesn't
audiences.
translate over. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like here's fan service, and all the European audience, just the Western audience, is like what is this? Why is this in this game?
Why is this a part of this? Why is this on my screen right now?
Yeah, yeah, we don't. Yeah, Square Enix, like we do. It's so weird too because Square Enix has such a large Western part as well now. I'm sure they don't really have anything to do with the Final Fantasy development.
Oh, not at all. Yeah.
But I feel like at least they could like send them something.
Can you do a quick once over of this? Make sure everything's nothing's too awkward.
Yeah, I just think it's really funny that like the number one complaint of all Europe, like they said they're not going to change. They're like, well, we might change some of the camera angles during cutscenes so they're not as ogling. It's like that's
That's a step in the right direction. Just, I mean, a tiny little step.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I just it has me a little bit worried about the game. No, I guess it doesn't really have me worried about the game, but
No,
has
it
me,
doesn't.
huh?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have you worried about the game at all.
No, but it does sort of like kind of peel back that, some people probably do have a point about like underrepresented female characters in games.
Just now?
Well, no.
Or are you just realizing
No,
this right now that there's
no,
a point there?
No, but like that's like the first time I've ever seen like a developer on camera say
Okay.
something really stupid about it.
Okay, that I can see.
Because if you think of like especially like the PR with games and stuff like that, especially like Tomb Raider and stuff like, oh, we want a strong female character and stuff like that. but you just never see anybody's like, no, we just want somebody to ogle at. Like they're pretty straightforward in their talk about
That's
that.
true.
So I mean, do you want to see more of this stuff in the future where like developers talk about the making the game and stuff, or no?
I do. I'm always interested, and it's a weird part of games that you never get to see. You know what I mean? Like, at this point, like, movies have 8 hours of behind-the-scenes things of, oh, this is why we did this is why we did this.
Mm-hmm.
And, TV shows even get that sometimes. And with, with DVD and Blu-ray releases, and it's something that you never see in games. And even, like, books, you can go and authors do interviews and stuff. It's very rare that I feel like you actually see, like, an interview with a developer, or a developer talking about their thought process, or why they chose to do something versus something else. I'm really interested in that kind of stuff, and I'd love to start seeing more and more games with that kind of stuff like integrated onto them. I mean, sometimes you get like the $150 limited edition, and there'll be some of that stuff, but
yeah,
I don't know. I like the idea of a creator talking about what they made and why they chose the things that they did, just because it gives you a better understanding of what that thing is and some of the meaning behind it.
Yeah, I think you can sort of find that stuff on websites like Gama Sutra, which is a really silly name for a very serious website. They have a lot of good like postmortems where they'll talk to a company about like this game they made and like what they even talk about like the mistakes they made on the game, which I thought was kind of interesting. But this is the first time I've ever seen like they really pushed it to like the wide audience. Like they're like yeah, we agreed. Some of this stuff is like for the I forgot to mention this, like during that hour and a half long talk, they answered 15 criticisms of the game. Like, that was the whole thing. It was like, first they talked about the stats, and then the last hour of it is like, okay, we're going to answer 15 of your criticisms. And like...
Which is awesome.
Huh?
It's awesome that a developer is doing that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I thought it was kind of ballsy. I was kind of surprised that, I don't know, it kind of goes against any sort of like PR speaky stuff that, like you said, that we're kind of used to when they interview developers. Like, how awesome is your game? So awesome. But then they're like, no, we realize our game is not quite as awesome as we want it right now. Like, one of the things they were talking about was, like one of the questions was, the animations take too long and there's no way to cancel it. Like, if you think of traditional stylish action games, you can always cancel out of stuff, like with a dodge or something like that, and you couldn't do that in this. He's like, oh, yeah, don't worry, we're going to be fixing that. And then they talked about the dodge roll. Oh, the dodge, like this time they had a sort of like phantom dodge thing that cost MP. He's like, oh, you know what, we're changing that a lot, so there's gonna be a specific one that you don't actually use MP. And if you are more skilled in the game, then you actually use less MP based on your button inputs. I was like, oh, that's kind of neat.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so like right now, if you hold down defend, it just drains MP and you dodge all the attacks. But they're gonna change it so, if you just tap to dodge, so you actually like actively dodge, it only takes like a little bit of your MP.
Huh.
Or none at all. And then they spent a long time just crapping on the camera. Like, yeah, the camera sucks. We agree, the camera's terrible. The camera's terrible. Like, they talked a lot about how terrible the camera was. And I just felt like there's like some guy on sort of like chopping block right now. It's like that like a million of our comments were about how crappy the camera was, right?
I'm really curious to know what they did. Like, who was the guy who got the most criticism from that? Because somebody did that. Like, oh, damn it, John, of course you did. Every complaint we got was about your decisions with the camera.
Oh yeah. Like, it was really funny because like the complaints were like some of them were like very, very specific. It was like, ooh, somebody's in trouble. One thing though, number one thing across the whole board was music, which I thought was kind of interesting. Across all U.S.
Final Fantasy is so well known for its music that, I mean,
yeah,
that's not surprising.
Yeah, I thought, but that was like the only stat across like all the regions. Like, yeah, that was the best thing about it. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Now I'm kind of excited for that. Oh, last thing about that, they said they're going to actually release an update to the demo called Episode Dusky 2.0 that addresses all those concerns, which is
crazy
cool. They said they're actually not sure if they're going to actually release it. They're not sure if they can release it publicly because it's updating a demo, which nobody's ever done before.
Yeah.
So they're actually because it's like just not built in the Xbox and PS4 like framework to update demos. So they said like, oh, we might just have it at shows and stuff like that, but we'd like to release it to everybody, which made me immediately go like, oh crap, I need to go get one of those codes.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to send us a code.
If you happen to have this.
Well, you can always contact us on our Darksliders podcast on Twitter. No, I'm just
We promise we'll talk about it in next week's episode.
Oh god, that's a path I don't want to go down. if we start streaming with subscribers, then maybe. I don't. Maybe we might do that too.
Then maybe you're okay with begging for stuff.
No.
Maybe if this happens, then maybe we'll start begging for
This
things.
is like the dark side of like actually when you get popular doing this stuff. Luckily, we're not even close to that.
We're not gonna get popular. It's okay.
No. Thank you, 40 to 50 viewers we normally have. Anyway, more news that we should talk about. We're going to talk about these both kind of at the same time. So there was a Just Cause 3 gameplay trailer that came out.
Looks so cool.
And a Mad Max gameplay trailer, which also looked pretty cool. The thing that's kind of unique about this situation is because it is the same dev is making both games for two different publishers, and they released a trailer for both their games at like the same time, which is like I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that before. Mad Max I think has been in development way longer than Just Cause 3 though. Mad Max kind of got delayed for the movie, so Just Cause 3 is kind of like their newest game, while Mad Max is one they sort of just had on the back burner for like a year or so.
Yeah.
And I don't think I don't even know if they've been working on it so much. So Brad, what are your impressions of just? Let's start with Mad Max because that was the earlier one. So what are your impressions of Mad Max?
It looks like Arkham. It looks like Arkham, but in a desert wasteland in Australia. And personally, I'm just kind of sick of the Arkham gameplay stuff. Between that, Shadows of Mordor, all the Arkham games, and every other game that's trying to copy that system, I'm just kind of done with it.
Yeah, I thought that was okay. Yeah, that is true. It is weird too that all these Arkham games are coming from WB. Like,
Yeah,
I guess
all of those games I just listed are all WB games.
yeah. That's. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but like you don't normally see a publisher copying itself so much. Like you'd expect like an EA game that kind of uses Arkham Combat, but it's like no, it's like we know Arkham Combat. We're gonna do Arkham Combat for like a lot of games. I don't even think Arkham Combat is that good. Like I like the Arkham
I don't
games,
either,
but
and that's why I'm sick of it.
yeah, I don't know, man. It's like it's not, and like especially with the Arkham games, like once you know who to go after, like every battle's like, oh, gotta take out those guys first, those guys second, those guys third, and that's like,
Yep.
and I that's, yeah,
It's a very easy system to master.
yeah, exactly, and there's no real like there's no real benefit to mastering it because the games are like pretty easy anyway.
Yeah.
But
But it looks good.
yeah, besides
And
that,
there are a few. The newest trailer that just came out last week. There's a few like driving scenes that look kind of interesting.
Mhm.
Just the physics on the cars and everything looked kind of cool. But
you're kind of
I don't know.
tepid on it. You're kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big Mad Max fan to begin with, so
Oh,
that doesn't necessarily help.
I didn't know that because I'm kind of a big Mad Max fan.
Yeah, I've seen the movies and once.
Okay, I'm not a big Mad Max fan, but I think it's like one of those things that everybody's been sort of, not everybody, but people who are fans of Mad Max, like, this would be a great open world game where you're traveling the wasteland and fighting. I was like, but then they made it. Like, that's what this is. And it's this like weird conglomerate of all the Mad Max movies together in one. Like, it's not just, I mean, I think it's supposed to be a prequel to the movie, but it's really obvious they have a bunch of other stuff from the older Mad Maxes in it. So I'm kind of hoping that it's sort of like inspired by the Mad Max universe and stuff, trying to stay too true to it so they can kind of go crazy and do what they want.
Yeah, so you don't have that like, oh, this is just the video game recreating the story of the movie.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like this is sort of like the new Marvel movie came out, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe to the Marvel comic book universe. Like they take inspiration from it and kind of do their own thing. And I feel like there's like a lot of creativity they could go through with Mad Max and exploring their own sort of thing with it. So I'm kind of excited for it. That's a game that I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to wait for reviews to see if it's actually good. Because honestly, I couldn't get a sense at all if it was actually gonna be a good game or not. But
Yeah.
the world and stuff looked it looked pretty cool. And so then the Just Cause 3, which is by the same devs again. So Brad, you actually didn't play Just Cause 2. So what's your reaction to the Just Cause 3 trailer?
It looks really, really cool. I'm really excited about that game. But I think, having not played them, it maybe changes my opinion a little bit. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really excited about it just because it looks really, really cool. Like some of the stuff that happens in that trailer is just crazy. And I don't know if it's in Just Cause 2 or how much of that is new stuff or how much of it is just old stuff but prettier. But to me, it was pretty much all new stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know. I thought it looked really cool and it looked pretty, looked fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of. I thought it looked like my first reaction was like, "Wow, this looks better than Mad Max." um, like I was more excited for it. As coming off of Just Cause 2, though, it really did just feel like Just Cause 2.5. Like I think the big thing they were kind of pushing in, at least in the dev diaries that I've seen so far of it, was like this is a brand new world of Just Cause 2 of the Just Cause world. Now you're going to be in the Mediterranean instead of a tropical island, but like kind of side by side, it looks
Those
a
are,
lot like Just Cause 2.
in my mind, Mediterranean Island and Tropical Island don't differ a whole lot in their appearance.
Uh,
Grant,
yeah.
I've never been to either, but the picture in my mind is those are just islands with trees.
Yeah, I think it's like I think the city design is probably gonna be different. Like that's like the city architecture is gonna be what's different. But it looked like a lot. I mean, but to be fair, a prettier, better Just Cause 2 is exciting. And like if you've never played Just Cause 2 and this is your first Just Cause game, I imagine this is gonna blow some people's minds. Like you can do a bunch of stupid stuff in those games. That was a lot of fun.
And that'll probably be me.
Yeah, like oh yeah, I think you're gonna have a ton of fun in this game. I think this is actually a game for people who are like, fans of Just Cause 2, but I think a lot of it is just like, okay, nobody played Just Cause 1, a few people played Just Cause 2. Okay, now we're going to show this game to everybody and say, "Hey, this series is actually pretty damn good. Now pay attention." So it's kind of like an evolution of a series rather than like a sequel with all new mechanics and stuff like. I mean, it does
So
have new
you're
mechanics.
saying this is like the HD remake of Just Cause 2, but instead of going the cheap route and just remaking the game, they're like, well, we'll do that kind of again, but better.
Yeah, actually, that's exactly how I feel about it. I think, but to me, like, that's enough to be excited about it because Just
Oh
Cause 2
yeah, I
is like,
agree. If they did that with most games instead of HD remakes, I'd be pretty happy.
yeah, which is actually funny because Just Cause 2 is kind of a remake of Just Cause 1, and Just Cause 3 kind of looks like a remake of Just Cause 2. It's kind of like they have this like formula. This is like one of those games where they have a formula that they just keep improving on. And the jump from Just Cause 1 to 2 was bonkers. Like a lot of people talk about Just Cause 2 because nobody played Just Cause 1, and those that did knew it wasn't great. So I think that's definitely something to get excited about. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna be really curious how these two games are gonna review against each other because it feels like they're coming out around the same time, which is so weird. I just never seen anything like that where a developer has like two games that are vastly different from two different publishers coming out at the same time. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Uh oh yeah, PS Plus, PS Plus, yay!
Yay!
PS Plus games were announced, which is super exciting. I always like talking about PS Plus games because every month you never really know what you're gonna get, and then they show stuff, and sometimes you're excited, sometimes it's like eh. Um,
But it's always free, and it's always more stuff to always try.
yeah. So, uh, yeah. What's your okay? So I'm just gonna go through the list really quick. I'm gonna go through like just the whole list so far. So the PS4 games are um I don't know. Okay, there's such a mix of like PS4/PS3. I'm just gonna go through all of them.
A lot of them are crossed by this month.
Yeah, yeah, which is actually awesome if you own more than one of the consoles.
Very awesome.
So Guacamelee for PS4, which is like the Super Turbo Edition.
Super Turbo Championship Edition, I think.
Yeah, and I didn't actually
There's
look
a
up.
lot of words in there.
Yeah, I actually didn't look up the differences between that and the normal version, so I have no idea the differences. Um,
I don't either.
Ether one or Ether one, which is I'm so excited. I always love when there's a game I've never heard of, up on PS Plus because I know nothing about this game. It looks like you did a lot of walking and a lot of puzzle solving, and I'm like down. Next is Unfinished Swan. That's on
Play
PS.
that game.
Yeah, we'll go back and we'll talk a little bit about some of these. Yeah, that's on all three. Race of Sun, which is on all three. Ho Ho Come, I'm so excited about that. Which is on all three, and Murasaki Baby, which is on Vita. Um, so first Guacamelee, I played a little bit of it. I kind of want this on Vita. Like I feel like this is so bad because I was like, oh man, kind of wish they had released the Vita thing for PS Plus because I feel like it's more of a Vita handheldy game than a console game.
I played that on Vita, and I would agree.
Oh, okay. Oh, you should did. Oh, you should play the. You should have the Vita version. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I love that game. Is fantastic. If you like platformers, beat 'em up, just kind of the side-scrolling thing, it's awesome. It's a very unique game. Just weird, great mechanics. It's an awesome game. Everybody should give it a try.
Yeah.
It has super unique art style to it. Just everything about that game is pretty much exclusive to that game. Like, if you look at a screenshot from that game, no matter what you're looking at, you know it's that game just by the art style, just by the things that are happening in it. It is such a cool game.
Yeah, I thought I remember for the little bit I played the game, I thought it actually had like a really cool art style. I didn't really get into it because I was playing on a console. I just wasn't feeling it. Like that's like one of those games I just feel like I need to have on handheld.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I don't know what the Super Turbo edition has. I think so. I'm sure I'll give it a try. Ether 1, I don't know. It looks interesting. I don't really have anything to say about it because I literally don't know about it, which is that alone has me excited for it.
If you just show Doug something he's never seen before, he's going to be excited.
Yeah, but then tell me I get it for free and tomorrow? Yeah.
Okay. Well, technically they told you get it next week.
All right.
when you
Either way,
actually found it.
but if somebody shows me something new and I'm getting it for free, then I'm going to be excited. Oh,
True.
Unfinished Swan. I feel like we should
Play that
actually-
game.
I don't know if we have enough time to talk about it this time, but I feel like this is like a game we should definitely like talk about it as a just played and pretend like we actually played it that week and not like a few months ago or a year ago.
Yeah, play that game.
Yeah, that is like one of those. That's one of those. I feel like people like to talk about how awesome Journey was, and this one kind of gets swept under the rug for some reason. But I think this game is it's so different from Journey, but I would definitely say it's comparable in quality to Journey. Just a really, really super unique game. That it's more of the game is showing you its world rather than you're actually playing in it.
Yeah.
Race the Sun it's a infinite runner game, so my patience with those games is either 5 minutes or like 10 hours. Like, I mean, some like you know that stupid Jetpack Joyride game?
Nope.
Oh, that's good. Well, it's a dumb infinite runner thing. I 100%ed an infinite runner that has microtransactions. That's like built with like the cards against you. I 100% that game. It was so stupid. But other infinite runners I don't play at all. Do you like those infinite runner games at all or no?
I don't know. Depends. I kind of like you. Like, I'm not going to invest like that much time into it, but it's either something I'll go play it for 10 minutes and go, yep, that's a thing, or I'll get really into. Just depends.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious about it. It looks kind of... I like kind of the whole like concept of it. Like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It looked interesting from the 30-second trailer I saw from it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you saw most of the game in that trailer.
Probably.
Oh man, I can't. God dang it, Sony! Stop doing this. Stop saving me money. I was gonna buy this game like 3 or 4 times. Ho ho kum looks effing amazing, and I don't know why they're giving it away for free. I always feel like sometimes PS Plus games like this game didn't do very well, but more people should play it.
Yeah.
Or I feel it's like indie devs who aren't super confident in like how many people will buy their games. So they just get like a cut. They just immediately get like an immediate cut from Sony. Like,
Yep.
Okay, we'll give you like I don't know, like $100,000 or something like that if we could put it on PS Plus. And I feel like this game, like Sony's like, this didn't sell enough, and I think more people should play it. Just a super super cool unique games. I am like so pumped to play this game. You don't really. This game doesn't intrigue you for some weird reason, considering how much you like weird games.
How much I like whose games?
Weird games.
Oh, weird games. I don't know. It just looks like there's nothing to it, and I don't know. I guess that's kind of cool, but at the same time, I feel like it's like Journey. Like, I had no desire to play Journey at all.
Really? Oh,
and
wow.
Flower and any of those dumb games. Well, not dumb games, great games. But I had no desire to play any of those until, I don't know, it was probably you. It was like, no, you need to sit down and you need to play this game.
Yeah,
and I
probably.
went, no, I don't. I'm just walking around. I can do that in real life. And then, like, I sat down and played and was like, oh my gosh, that was cool. So I think it's like one of those things like that where looking at a trailer for this game, to me it's just like, oh yeah, look at that thing fly around. That's cool.
Mhm.
Okay, next. Like, it doesn't have that impact that, like, The Order does with its trailers, and like just looking at it, I can go, okay, this is a game I need to play. This is a game I want to play. It's just, oh, well, that looks like it
That's
exists.
so funny. I have the complete opposite reaction because when I saw the trailer, I was like, I need to play this. Murasaki Baby. That's another. God dang, that's another game I was actually gonna play on buying for Vita. Um, this one's kind of weird. I don't have a lot to say about it. I don't think either of us have a lot to say about this one. This one I do want to. I both want us to play though, and then talk about later. Because
Yeah, I know nothing about this game.
yeah. So that one we'll definitely talk about. Um, so actually, this is the big news. Everybody's been talking about this one. This is the thing we're gonna kind of close with. The Yooka Laylee Kickstarter, which freaking blew everybody out of the water.
So much money.
So much money. Oh yeah. Okay. Before we even talk about the game and what its implications are, this game is the fastest to $1 million of any gaming project on Kickstarter ever. Like bigger than Tim Schafer's new adventure game, bigger than I don't know, bigger than any video game project you can think of that's on Kickstarter that's been released. Like it's bigger than all those. And they've only been working on it. All that stuff you've seen is like 2 months of work.
But the thing is that surprising? I mean, if you look at who these guys are who are making this game, I mean, yeah, you got Tim Schafer, but his games were always very
Niche.
like cult classic-ish. Whereas, I mean, this is Donkey Kong 64. This is, I mean, this is games that everyone played and everyone loved.
That's true.
I mean, this would be 10 years from now if, okay, the guys from Bungie got back together like, oh yeah, we're going to make another Halo-type game. We haven't done that in 15 years.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to go, oh man, remember how great Halo was?
Yeah.
Well, not everybody. I'm going to. But anyway.
That's true. I do wonder, okay, like if this was I feel like this is like one of the few things I've seen where a lot of people are excited just because the name's behind it. Because the gameplay I saw was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But it wasn't like, oh my god, blow my expectations out of the water. I was like, yeah, it looks like a 3D platform. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, I haven't seen one of those in a while.
Yeah, this game, we really haven't, though. But and everybody seems to forget that Ratchet and Clank has been going on for like 10, 15 years.
Yeah, but even, I guess they have released those in the past couple of years. Never mind.
Yeah. No, but like Ratchet and Clank is the only long-running series besides Mario that I can think that's platforming. I think the game itself just looks kind of fun and silly. But I think a lot of people are just trusting these guys to do a good job.
Yeah. And that's weird because the video game industry as a whole does not have a lot of name recognition.
No, yeah, that's true. Especially not with like, instant $1 million name recognition.
No, I mean, there's studio recognition. Like, I mean, if you saw, whatever studio you happen to know you like their games for, that gets something. I mean, whenever Platinum Games shows up, everybody loses their mind. But if you name 4 people who work at Platinum Games, you know what I mean?
You could probably, I mean, like Mikami and stuff like that, like those, there's like some big names in there, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
There's a few, but just, we're 12 guys who worked for Rare 15 years ago. I mean, that's, again, I mean, you do have the whole Rare thing in there, because Rare is something that people beg and plead to come back for years and years, so... Oh man, it is super weird, because Rare has been working on some like secret project that nobody knows about, and I'm pretty sure it's a new Banjo game. I am really, really curious that when Rare announces their new game, if it is like like current Microsoft Rare, if they announce like, oh, we're gonna use an old Rare game and like use that IP, I don't know what the reaction is gonna be, because all the guys that you would be like care about actually working on the game are working on Yooka Laylee. But see, like, again, that comes back to studio recognition, because if you think about the big thing with Infinity Ward a few years ago, when all the top guys at Infinity Ward left or got kicked out or whatever happened with that, nobody cared. Everyone went, oh, this is the new Infinity Ward Call of Duty.
I would say nobody. I would feel like anybody who actually followed that news cared a lot, but...
Again, like the hardcore people who are super into that game, they did, but the mass public didn't.
No.
And again, I think it's going to end up being the same thing with Uncharted 4.
Yeah.
Where people are going to see Naughty Dog. They're going to see Uncharted. They're not going to think in their minds, oh, well, remember all those people who actually made the last couple games? They're not there anymore.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like video games as a whole focus more on that developer side as opposed to the personal side.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, but I feel like people who would care about a new Banjo game would know this stuff. Like, there's not, 12-year-olds out... I mean, there's probably a few, but I can't imagine there's a lot of 12-year-olds out there like, oh my god, Banjo 3 it's gonna be people who are hardcore enough to actually like know what Yooka Laylee is, as the old banjo guys. So that's why I'm saying like this is gonna be a really really weird reaction with whatever Rare announces, because the like if Rare announces an older IP, it's gonna be the people who like their audience is the people who are backing Yooka Laylee.
Who are supporting this like crazy? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel actually kind of bad for them because I feel like they've been like I feel like that Rare whatever they're doing now it seems to be actually like a passion project because their other stuff recently has been kind of like their Connect Sports and stuff hasn't really
Yep.
sold well, and it kind of forced Microsoft to actually like do stuff that people wanted. Yeah, are you excited about this game or no? Like what
I am. Yeah. And again, I think a lot of it goes back to that what these guys have done in the past. Like
Yeah.
I loved Donkey Kong 64, loved a lot of their other games, all the Banjo games, loved playing all those. So it comes back to that, and just we talked about it a couple weeks ago, a couple episodes back. Just the idea of this giant shared universe that they want to make,
Yeah.
and just the ambition that they have for this project is impressive to me, and that alone makes me curious.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really feel like a lot of this is just people making what they want to make, and I think whenever you have that situation, it always turns out good. It's
That's
kind of that same thing that we saw with Ubisoft and Child of Light
Yeah.
and those types of games where it's, okay, this is the game that these guys have in their mind that they want to make. I feel like that makes something much better than somebody sitting here and checking things off the list and going, okay, well, we need this. Well, we want you guys to make a game that has this and this in it,
Mhm.
but this is something that these guys are passionate about, and I think that's just going to end up being a better final product in the end. So I'm really excited to see what this turns out to be.
Yeah. I can't put it any better than that. Yeah. I'm excited for this game. I also like 3D platformers a lot, so
That's true, too.
I'm kind of in the. I actually never played Banjo-Kazooie. I never played Donkey Kong 64.
Oh,
I played Conker's.
jeez.
I played actually a lot of Conker's Bad Fur Day for whatever reason, but I didn't play those other games. So I am like one of the people who are just excited because it's a 3D platformer. Like that's enough for me to go ooh yay. So yeah, I guess that kind of wraps up our episode. Sorry we're gonna be a little bit late this week. Had some bad timing, some personal stuff. We always seem to actually have stuff that goes on in like our lives.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, kind of crazy. Man, if we were in high school though, shit, we could put out one of these out every day.
So much easier.
So that was episode 11 of Darksliders podcast with Doug and Brad. You can always follow us. Actually, please follow us on Twitter. That sounds kind of like we're begging. No, but like honestly, it's like the only way that we can like actually like interact with people, and not interacting because like oh we got to get up our social media thing. It's just to see how people think about our episodes. So if you think our episodes are good or you think they suck, just send us a tweet. So yeah, follow us on Twitter at darksliders_pod. Gosh, I always hate asking for this. Subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on iTunes. And actually, if you do contact us on Twitter, please tell us what you're listening on. If you're listening on iTunes or YouTube, because we're not really sure. We have no idea how many people are listening on iTunes, like at all.
This is a lot of homework you're giving out here.
Yeah, no, it's not. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on YouTube, and follow us on iTunes. Or just do one of those things. It's all good. Thanks, Brad. That was episode 11 of Darksliders podcast. I guess we'll see you next week.
Bye!
Damn it, Brad.